Hi, I'm Livia Dyer. I'm a director in the Technology, Media and Telecommunications Department at Gilfillan, and I'm a member of the Consumer Protection Act task team that was established by the firm in preparation for the Consumer Protection Act, which came into effect on the 1st of April 2011. What I'm going to be talking about today are promotional competitions, which are now regulated in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. They were previously regulated in terms of the Lotteries Act, so the requirements have now changed and they are quite a lot more extensive under this new legislation. In terms of the Lotteries Act, the default position is that all competitions where the result is determined by lot or by chance, all such competitions are unlawful unless they fit into the 5 defined categories that are described in the Act. Now, the most relevant category for present purposes and for suppliers of goods and services who conduct competitions is the category of promotional competitions, which are designed for the purpose of either promoting particular goods or services or a particular supplier of goods or services. All of us are very familiar with these sorts of competitions. Previously, before the Consumer Protection Act, which, as I said, came into effect on the 1st of April of this year, 2011, before the Consumer Protection Act, all promotional competitions were regulated under the Lotteries Act, and there were particular requirements that were imposed on the competitions, what they were allowed to offer as prizes, and various requirements that suppliers had to comply with. As from the 1st of April, these sorts of competitions are now regulated under the Consumer Protection Act. What the Act clarifies, which was previously somewhat unclear under the Lotteries Act, is that although it only deals with promotional competitions that are decided by lot or by chance, it does still cover competitions where there is an element of skill or chance involved. Previously, when the Lotteries Act was applicable, what suppliers used to try and do is evade the application of the Lotteries Act, so evade the requirements by requiring people who were entering competitions to, for example, answer a question. And there was an argument then that, in fact, the competition was not decided by lot or by chance and accordingly wasn't a competition that was covered by the Lotteries Act. Now that's been clarified under the Consumer Protection Act. Some of the changes that the Consumer Protection Act and the regulations which have been published under it, some of the changes that have been made from what was the position previously under the Lotteries Act are that the requirements are somewhat more extensive in relation to the documentation that suppliers and promoters who conduct competitions, the documents that they are required to keep. Promotional competition rules have to be prepared before the promotional competition is conducted. There is a cap on the payment, the consideration that must be paid when a person who's entering a competition enters into a competition by, for example, posting an entry or submitting an entry via SMS or email, and that cap is R1.50. There is also now a requirement which was previously not applicable under the Lotteries Act, that all competitions have to be overseen by an independent person such as an attorney or an accountant. In addition, where the National Consumer Commission asks for copies of the rules under which competitions were conducted, those have to be supplied to them, and various documents have to be retained for a certain period of time in relation to any competitions that a supplier conducts. The sorts of documents that need to be retained are, for example, any advertising material or offers to enter into a particular competition. So these are all the sorts of things that one needs to bear in mind if one is a supplier of goods or services or a promoter who's conducting promotional competitions, and of course if there's any need for any advice on any of these sorts of requirements, any member of the CPA task team at the firm can be contacted.